Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to those from the West Coast. It is now 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock Pacific, so we will get started. I will just move very slowly through the first kind of 2 minutes or so until we give everybody a chance to get settled. Good number of people on today, which is great. Hello to those that I have been in touch with before. I see you on the list. For those that are brand new to Strongpoint, just wanted to thank you also for coming. What we'll cover today will primarily be focused on impact analysis, but I will do my best to kind of provide some context for you so that you know kind of how this works and where it fits into the, the broader, I guess, scope of what we do here at Strongpoint. So thank you to everybody. As I said, I'm going to kind of stall just for another 30 seconds or so until we get started, but the agenda for the day today, we'll start off with some introductions. So for those that don't know me, my name is Paul Stas. I'm the Director of Sales here at Strongpoint. I've been with the company now for very quickly approaching 3 years, working with companies of kind of all shapes and sizes, running NetSuite and Salesforce, helping them with kind of a lot of the challenges that we'll talk to today. I will shortly jump into a very brief overview, just one short slide of kind of everything that we do, so that, like I said, it kind of gives you an idea of where this fits in. And then from there, I'm going to talk about impact analysis under this customer challenges header. And I've got kind of two analogies that I like to use because I think they really sum up why impact analysis is challenging and why impact analysis is also very important. And so I think that'll probably frame the demo pretty well. From there, I will spend the rest of the time walking you through a product demonstration of impact analysis, showing you a few different ways that Strongpoint supports it. And, I'll try to stress this throughout, but, it's not one size fits all. Organizations have very different change management processes, and the type of impact analysis that you're doing and the stage that it's done at will vary significantly. So keep that in mind as I walk through our tools and how they work. If you have any questions throughout the session today, I will do my best to keep some time at the end to answer them. And so you can feel free to either drop those into the chat box, or there should be a little Q&A tab for you as well, where you can submit those questions to me, and I'll try to keep my eyes peeled for those as they come in. Okay, so without further ado, I will get started. So what do we do for those that are brand new to us? We like to split it up into 3 different categories or steps. So first of all, Strongpoint is a managed bundle built for NetSuite. We also do the same things for Salesforce, but we're talking about NetSuite today. And so 100% native application. Your data never leaves. We don't host anything. We never need access into your system. Once it's installed, Strongpoint will automatically document everything that's inside your system. So fields, forms, user roles, assignments, critical settings, preferences, workflows, scripts, all the way down to like every little line of code inside those scripts. So it can be very granular as well. And then once we give you that, we also map out all of the dependencies between them, which is something that is really challenging. And so that's all kind of encompassed into that first bucket there, all around just like system documentation. The second step here is around what we call intelligent change management. And like I alluded to earlier, that can mean very different things for very different organizations. Super straightforward for the smaller shops, maybe something a little bit more formal and complex for larger organizations that have multiple people working in multiple places, as an example. You might need to have something that's a bit more rigorous. And so we support all of that. But in the end, what we're trying to do is give you tools to enhance productivity when making changes, as well as tools to keep track of everything that's being done. So improving things like reporting, or for publicly traded companies, compliance or governance, which is that third step down here. And so from an ITGC perspective, we do give you visibility to everything that's changing, and you can link it back to change requests and prove that you've got controls inside your system that are monitoring for critical changes. And you do get to customize and define those controls. And then secondly, we also get in more into segregation of duties and financial controls as well. So for segregation of duties, you can think of it as like a pre-built library of rules that you can turn on, and we can automatically notify you if a single user has a couple roles that have conflicting permissions within them, giving them the ability to do things like create and approve a journal entry, which maybe your internal audit or external audit team says isn't okay. We also have the ability to monitor for that kind of activity and alert you to it, or just allow you to report on it. So we could also, for example, if you have a small accounting team and you need to have people create and approve journal entries, we can just notify you or log when somebody does it to their own journal entry, as an example. We can also look at things like administrator activity, or things being modified outside a period, or if things are deleted that shouldn't be, and so on and so forth. So kind of transactional and record-based events. So that's kind of what we do. Does come, like I've mentioned a couple times already, in different shapes and sizes for different sized organizations, but also organizations at different levels of maturity. So, you know, some organization that has been on NetSuite for 10 years and has been, you know, running these same tools for a long time might have much more mature processes than somebody that just went live in December of last year, as an example. Okay, so that's kind of the overview of Strongpoint. I hope that makes sense for those that are kind of brand new to it. Again, it's a managed bundle, completely native, and so you know, the demo today will all be inside NetSuite, so it should look pretty familiar to you. So jumping in, I mentioned that I have a couple analogies. I do really like analogies. So the first one is a Jenga tower. So NetSuite is a super powerful system, and one of the best things about it is that it can be customized to meet your specific business requirements, right? It's super powerful to be able to do that. And the challenge, though, is that the more that you customize it, the more difficult that it becomes to manage. And so it's kind of like a Jenga tower, where you build it up, you build it up, you build it up, you customize, you customize, you customize, and then as it goes higher and higher, it becomes a little bit more wobbly until somebody removes a block that they shouldn't, and things break. So that's kind of why impact analysis for increasingly customized instances is extremely important. And what are some things that makes that more difficult? So I've got a couple of them listed for you here. So first one that we see all the time is employee turnover. It's great because your skills are in demand, but it's terrible because these skills are in demand, and people are often moving around, and as they walk out the door, they walk away with tribal knowledge as well of, you know, what things are and why they're there and how they've been built and what they're connected to. And so impact analysis, you know, I think is increasingly important because of employee turnover, and giving employees that might be great in NetSuite but not familiar with your NetSuite the tools to understand things quickly and effectively, right? Same story for in-house versus third party. Partners are an absolutely critical part of kinds of great reasons, right? It's your ability to leverage external skills to scale more quickly than you would in-house, to be able to do more technical things and leverage experience and so on and so forth, right? Like everybody uses partners. But the challenge is what happens when they move on to their next project, or if you have, you know, somebody take over for managing the system after they have implemented it for you. You know, how can you get your people up to speed on what they've built? Also really important reason for having tools for impact analysis and process for it as well. The last point here is also increasingly common. It's technical debt. You know, when you're looking at making a change to something that already exists in your system, you know, you can either create something brand new, you can change something existing, or maybe you can delete something. And people very rarely delete things because there's risk involved. And so what that means, though, is that over time, your system gets increasingly cluttered. And as it gets more cluttered, it gets a little bit more difficult to understand, okay, what's in there and why is it connected and what's connected to what, and which version of this should I be using and which one's being used and which one's not, and so on and so forth, right? These are all things that make impact analysis you know, more important, but also you know, more challenging at the same time. And so when you're looking at doing impact analysis, my next analogy is the iceberg, which I like a lot too. You know, you're looking at making what may be a seemingly insignificant or small change. I'm just going to change a saved search. What could go wrong? Well, there could be a lot more going on kind of back behind the scenes, as we see in this iceberg picture here, right? Where 90% of the change is actually underwater. And what you'll need to look at really, first of all, is probably technical risk, right? Am I going to break anything? Is this saved search connected to a workflow? And what would the downstream impacts of my change be? The second that you're going to need to look at is what we call organizational risk. And so, maybe that saved search isn't being or isn't connected to anything technically risky. You're not going to break your system if you change it, but maybe people are using it and you're going to impact their business processes, or you could impact their data, and all of a sudden their report is just a little bit different than it was before and they don't know it. So that's kind of the second level of risk. The analysis is important. And the third one here is regulatory risk. Maybe the change that I'm making could in some way impact GDPR or new personal data information laws that are rolling out in California. Or maybe it could impact compliance in one way or another. So there's a variety of things that could happen. So I hope that my sound is okay. I was notified that it wasn't, so my apologies if it's not. I just tried to adjust my microphone, and I hope that everything is okay for you. So with that, I will jump into a demo, and I'll try to move slowly in case you can't hear me properly, which worries me a little bit. But so what I'll show you here to start off is our entity relationship diagram. And so this is a manual way for you to do kind of exploratory impact analysis. And so as an example, I've pulled up our customer standard record here. You could pull up kind of any record inside or any object inside your NetSuite environment. And let's say somebody is looking at potentially making a change to this company size field. So if I click through on the company size field, what it's going to show me downstream is anything that particular field is connected to. And I'm seeing here in this case, a pretty simple picture overall. I'm really only seeing a couple searches. So as I mentioned earlier, there really isn't a lot of technical risk here. Maybe I could break these searches, but there's no workflows or scripts or anything like that. And downstream, if I click through, maybe to investigate this a little bit further, I can open up this record and dig into it some more. So let's say I want to see more details about this demo search, which is what it's called. I can see, its type and internal ID and script ID, and I can very quickly see an overview of how it's configured. So there's no formulas. I'm not going to break any SQL here. I can see the filters that are being used, and I can see the fields that are being used. And so I can actually see that the field that I clicked through, this cust entity 7, is appearing in both spots. So changing it could have an impact on this search. However, as I scroll down, I can see that the date last used on it is June 12th of 2017. And it's really only being used by a couple people and a couple subsidiaries. So, I can probably make this change very quickly. I'll check on Alex and Leo to see how they're doing and whether they're using it or not. But from an impact analysis perspective, it looks like changing this company size field will be pretty straightforward. I'll give you a different example here though. So we've got this set customer on credit hold, which is a checkbox sitting on the customer record, connected through to a workflow, connected through downstream to a couple scripts and a search. So this is a much more different picture, let's say. There's a lot of technical risk involved here with the impact that a small change could have downstream because of the dependencies. And if I wanted to dig into this a little bit more, let's say I needed to change a workflow or even troubleshooting as another example, which is kind of a different form of impact analysis. You can look at this and see here that there are the related objects that you need to be concerned about. Also, there's a customers in California search that's somehow connected to it here. And as I scroll downstream, I'll see a somewhat similar overview to what you saw for the search, but now I'm looking at a workflow. And so I'll see fields and values and states and actions and so on and so forth, which would give me an overview of kind of the complexity and the impact of it. So the ERD is a great way to do some of that kind of like visual research on a potential change. I had a question pop up. So within Strongpoint, to get to this view, pretty straightforward. You'd go to the Strongpoint menu, you'd go to Customizations, and you'd hit ERD View. I'll let that populate here just to walk you through it. I like to have my screen set up to save some time. But then once you're here, you would select from a drop-down list of things that are inside your NetSuite account. I scrolled down here and I clicked on the customer standard record and I hit show ERD. There's a few different ways that you can filter that if you needed to, but there you go. That's kind of how you got to it. And then you'd be able to click through and see anything that you needed. Hope that answers your question. Okay, so just to reiterate, right, I would say that this is manual impact analysis. It's exploratory, but it's using incredible tools. And you know what's going on behind the scenes to power this is you know pretty sophisticated. So that's one way to do it. Now, let's say that you didn't need to go and explore through the ERD. You instead wanted to look at, say, a large group of things and see all of their dependencies. Or a single one, you know exactly what it is. You don't need to go through the ERD to see it. So you can search for things directly by name and script ID. And I'll show you, this was just Strongpoint, customizations, and customization impact search form. And this is super popular. So let's say, for example, you wanted to look at a particular type of component inside your system, whether it's all of your workflows and all of their dependencies, or all of your workflow action scripts and all of their dependencies, or all of your saved searches and all of their dependencies. So I'll do that just as an example. So I'll hit search here, and you can filter by owner as well, or by bundle if you needed to. I hit submit here, and so all within NetSuite, this is now going to populate a search for me. I would be able to edit this the way that you would any other NetSuite search. I am searching for every search in my system, so bear with me as this processes, but this is a great way for you to get a view of a very large group of things all at the same time. Maybe I should have picked something other than search because there would be fewer of them. Either that or I'm having internet difficulties, and that's why somebody commented on choppy sounds. So either way, I apologize for the wait here. There we go. So what this has now shown me here, and again, you can filter down if you needed to, but this is showing me every search you can see under type in my system, the name of them, the date last used for all of them, the script ID for them all, and then as you scroll over, you're able to see any dependencies in any of these other columns. So I'm going to see bundled information, data sources, forms, lists, scripts, workflows, dependencies, so on and so forth. And so you can see as I scroll down here that some of these are now starting to populate, right? And so you can see that there are scripts that are connected through, and a lot of these in our demo environment, you're seeing there are our own scripts, but that's the idea, right? You're able to see a very large group of things all in one place. You can export this, you can work with it, whatever you need to do, and it's these columns that are going to be populating with any of the dependencies that'll be there. So again, I would describe this as being a somewhat manual way of doing impact analysis, but again, it's with information that you just don't get natively inside NetSuite, so it's really, really powerful. I'm going to segue now a little bit into kind of some more automated forms of impact analysis. And so we have two things that I'll show you today. The first one is going to be a process issue, and the second one is going to be a change request. And there's a really important underlying concept here that I'll just quickly discuss, and it's the idea of change controls or change policies. And so within Strongpoint, we have a default policy that is designed for technical risk. So for example, we would alert you to any dependencies or connections to scripted objects or workflows or maybe user roles or settings and preferences and things like that, right? And that would be a higher level of risk. Whereas, a form or a report or a safe search might be a lower level of risk. But then what you can also do with these controls is customize them further. So you can say, well, yes, reports are not technically risky, but these 15 reports are used extensively by the accounting and finance teams for their, close processes and their you know, SOX or audit reporting, whatever the case may be. And so you can customize controls to create those filters for organizational or regulatory risk, right? But the idea here is that inside this process issue, you know, I just put in a really quick description here. I said that we need to remove Los Angeles customers from this search. You know, I want to make a change to this California customer search. And you're basically asking Strongpoint, you know, can I do this or is it risky? And so what you're going to see here is that this change control level required will populate. And in this case here, it says log changes only, which basically means that a change to this search based on the policies or the controls that you have does not require an approval or does not require sandbox testing or does not require full software development lifecycle. So in other words, it's a low level of risk. You can go ahead and you can change it quickly. But we don't really show you much more information than that. This is kind of designed for somebody that's like, say, you know, a power user inside NetSuite, and they kind of just want to check, can I do this or can I not do this? Give me a yes or no answer and don't give me too much information. So that's what kind of process issues are a great use case for. A way for you to ask Strongpoint and Strongpoint will give you an answer. Now I'll show you some more examples here inside the change request, and here there is definitely more information available. So similar idea to the previous screen, but now this is kind of designed to be a bit more formal, kind of built into an IT process for you. So what you'll do up at the top, similar to what you would see inside like a Jira issue, for example, a quick overview of what it is that you're trying to do. Give some background, give some context, explain what you're doing and why. And then what you'll do here is populate the customizations that you're going to look at for changing. And here I've listed in two. I've said the number of daily script executions and the demo search. And so now what Strongpoint again is automatically going to do is give you that change control level that's required. And here we see that it says full software development lifecycle. So a bit more complex, a bit higher risk. We're also going to tell you, based on the controls that you have in this system, these are the people that need to approve a change to this if it's going to be okay for you to do it. We're not going to stop anybody from doing anything, but we let you know, this requires this person's approval. And you can also customize these. So for example, if it's like a change that's going to impact finance, you can have one approval. If it's a change that's going to impact IT, you can have a different approval. And then down below, what we provide for you is an impact analysis. And so we're telling you that these two customizations, so this number of daily script executions and this demo search, which if you remember, you put into scope up here. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. These two customizations cannot be safely deleted or modified. And it gives you an explanation of why. So this number of daily script executions looks like it's got technical risk against it, right? There are dependent scripts and there's a dependent managed bundle that you need to be aware of here. It's also being recently used, there's active processes and the data hasn't been archived, right? So there's a variety of reasons of why a change to this could be risky and we list that out for you. This demo search, on the other hand, doesn't have technical risk really, right? But it has organizational risk because it has been used in the past and maybe somewhat recently. We can remember we looked at that one and it's like 1.5 years old. So I would argue that that's probably old enough that it's not considered active anymore, but it is flagging it for you for that reason. So let's say, for example, I wanted to add in another one just to show you what this looks like. Within my change request, before it's been approved, I can very easily come in and do that. And so here I would just say I wanted to look up customizations. I can come in here and say, if I want to look up California customers, I can type that in, I'll hit lookup, and it's going to populate here. So you can do a bit of a fuzzy search if you needed to, and I could see other things if I needed to. The details would tell me a little bit more about it, and I can select that here. And add selected customizations, and I've just added that here to this search. When I save this, that will then complete the impact analysis all over again for me. So you can add a list of things if you need to, and then kind of perform that impact analysis all at once. And I'll see here that this particular component that I added here can be safely deleted or modified, whereas the other one cannot be, or the other ones cannot be. And if I ever needed to dig in and I wanted to look at these, I can always at any time open up the records that I showed you earlier from the ERD view. I can always open those up directly in a variety of different places inside our system, but you can always go to these pages. So these are records that Strongpoint has created in the background to store information about all of the components that we've documented. And then from here, you can get that overview of metadata. You can see the ERD. So if you wanted to look downstream or only a particular component, you can do that. We're also doing things like capturing change logs along the way for any time something has been changed. We're capturing a time-stamped, date-stamped record of what that change was. Again, circling back to troubleshooting, which is almost like the reactive form of impact analysis. Something broke and I don't know what and I don't know why, but I need to figure it out. So I hope that makes sense. That's kind of the portion of the demo that I wanted to cover today. Again, the message is that you know, great tools to solve a really important challenge, helping you understand the technical risk as well as the organizational and regulatory risks involved with making a change. And so many of the changes that we make inside the system are very straightforward. But you know, how can I just very quickly understand if this is something that's safe to do or not? And so the tools that I showed you today are different ways of doing that. You can either do it manually through the DRD view by coming to these customization records that we've created, by doing a larger scale search to look at a big group of things before you make a change. You can ask Strongpoint, if you will, inside the process issue. It'll just tell you if it's something that needs approval or needs process or not. And within the change request, you can go into a little bit more detail and add a big group of customizations if you need to. And that's where we'll give you this formal impact analysis down below. And as I mentioned, we do have controls or policies that are running in the background that are helping determine, you know, what types of changes need process and need approvals and which ones don't. And those are very customizable as well. So we're about 27 minutes in. I'll take a pause here just to see if there's any questions that come up.